There are no accidents. If these words have found you, they come as a whisper from your own consciousness, a message from the unseen depths of your being, calling you to awaken. Something within you has shifted. An invisible turning point has been reached. You may not see it yet, but it has already begun. For you are not here by chance. You are here because your soul has summoned a new reality. And now, at this moment, the great work begins. Everything you have known, every limitation, every struggle, was only the shadow cast by an old assumption. But the moment you dare to imagine differently, the entire fabric of your world will rearrange itself. Imagination is not idle fantasy. It is the very structure of reality itself. What you accept as true, you experience. If you would change your life, you must first change the unseen cause, the state of being from which you view the world. The world reflects not what you want, but what you are. Assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled, and the world will mirror your assumption. You are always manifesting. Every experience, every event in your life is the outpicturing of an inner state. The key is consciousness. By shifting the state you occupy, you shift the world you dwell in. There is no external force shaping your destiny. There is only consciousness, assuming and becoming. Let go of the past. It has no power over you. The moment you stop rehearsing yesterday's fears and doubts, they will dissolve, for they were never real. Only projections of a state now fading into nothingness. The only thing that matters is who you are right now in imagination. Live as though your desire is already fulfilled. Speak from it, think from it, act from it, not towards it. When you live in the end, the means will unfold before you effortlessly. You do not need to force or struggle. The world will conspire to bring forth the assumption you hold unwaveringly. Trust the unseen. The bridge of incidents will appear as naturally as the rising sun. It may not come in the way you expect, but it will come. Do not be deceived by appearances. Persist in the assumption, and reality will bend to match your inner world. Your transformation is inevitable. That which you now claim as true will harden into fact. You need only persist, believe, and assume. For the moment you fully accept the reality of your wish fulfilled, your world will be reborn. There comes a moment in life when the unseen currents beneath the surface begin to stir. A whisper, a shift, a feeling you cannot yet define, but you know something is happening. This moment is not random, nor is it coincidence. It is the direct response to the movement within you. Consciousness precedes form, and long before the outer world rearranges itself, the transformation has already begun within. You may feel the pull of something greater, as though an invisible hand is guiding you toward a new reality. This is not an external force. It is the movement of your own being, awakening to the realization that life is not happening to you, but through you. The moment of change is not in some distant future. It is now, in this very instant, in this breath you take, in this thought you hold. If you dare to recognize it, everything shifts. You are never waiting for life to change. Life is waiting for you to change. The conditions, the circumstances, the events that seem so fixed are nothing more than crystallized reflections of past assumptions. The world you see today is the residue of yesterday's state of consciousness, but the instant you assume something new, the world must follow. Most people look for signs, for proof that change is coming. They want to see evidence before they believe. But the law does not work in that way. The external world does not precede the internal shift. It follows. If you wait for the world to confirm your new state before you accept it, you will wait forever. But if you dare to assume it without needing proof, the proof will come as naturally as the unfolding of a flower. To recognize the moment of change, you must first understand that reality is fluid, not fixed. Everything you experience is being shaped, molded, and projected by the state of consciousness you occupy. There is no power outside of you dictating events. The conditions of your life are not determined by fate or by chance. They are determined by what you have accepted as true. If you have accepted limitation, you experience limitation. If you have accepted struggle, you experience struggle. But if you accept abundance, success, love, or any desire as already yours, the world will conform to make it so. The moment of change begins with a decision to no longer be bound by the limitations of the past, a decision to no longer react to the world as it is, but to create the world as you wish it to be. Most live as slaves to appearances, believing what they see, rather than realizing that what they see is only the outpicturing of an old assumption. But you must go beyond appearances. You must see with the inner eye, the eye of imagination, and recognize that what is real is not what has been, but what is now assumed. It does not matter what your present circumstances may be. They are nothing more than echoes of past states. If you refuse to give them power, if you refuse to accept them as final, they will dissolve. The only thing that matters is the state you now occupy. The feeling you accept as real in this moment is the blueprint of your future. Do not seek change through effort or struggle. Effort belongs to those who believe the outer world holds power. But the outer world has no life of its own. It is animated by the assumptions you hold. True change happens in the silence of the mind. It happens in the stillness of a single moment, when you abandon the former self and step fully into the new. There is nothing to wait for. The moment you claim your desire is already yours, the change has occurred. It may not be visible yet, but it is done. The seed has been planted, and just as the oak exists within the acorn long before it is seen, your new reality exists now within you. All that remains is persistence. Do not concern yourself with how the change will come. That is not your work. Your work is to remain faithful to the state you have assumed. If you have claimed it in imagination, you must think from it, act from it, live from it, not towards it. Those who live in the end do not question, do not doubt. They know that what they have accepted as true will harden into fact. Dare to believe that the shift has already occurred. The signs will follow, the path will unfold, and the bridge of incidents will carry you naturally to the fulfillment of what you have assumed. But none of this happens until you claim it now. Not tomorrow, not in a week, not when circumstances improve, but now, in this very moment. This is the great secret, that the moment of change is not something you wait for, but something you declare. It is not in the future, it is now. And the instant you assume your new reality, the unseen forces move. The world, though it appears the same at first, has already begun to rearrange itself. The people, the events, the conditions, all are shifting, aligning, preparing to reveal the truth of what you have assumed. And so, ask yourself, what are you assuming right now? What are you accepting as true? For that is what you are creating. The moment of change is not coming, it is here. And the moment you truly recognize this, the moment you fully embrace it, your entire world will transform before your very eyes. Everything you see, everything you touch, everything you experience in this world is a result of imagination. There is no exception to this law. Every structure, every invention, every moment of joy or sorrow, all are born from the unseen realm of thought before they take shape in the visible world. Imagination is not idle fantasy. It is the very essence of creation. To understand this truth is to hold the key to life itself. For as long as one believes that reality is something fixed, external, and beyond control, they remain a slave to circumstance. But the moment one realizes that the world is nothing more than a reflection of inner states, the chains of limitation begin to dissolve. Life does not happen to you, it responds to you. It reflects, like a mirror, the assumptions you hold in the depth of your being. The secret is simple. What you imagine, you become. What you assume as true, you will experience. You are always imagining, whether consciously or unconsciously, and the world is always conforming to the images held within your mind. Every man, every woman, every event you encounter is drawn into your experience by the concept of yourself that you hold. The conditions of your life are not set by luck, fate, or chance. They are shaped by the persistent images you entertain in the silence of your imagination. Consider for a moment the greatest achievement of mankind. Every towering building, every work of art, every scientific breakthrough existed first in the mind of the one who conceived it. No bridge, no city, no invention has ever appeared without first being imagined. And yet, so many still believe that their lives are determined by external forces. They look at the world and say, "This is just the way things are," never realizing that they themselves have unconsciously shaped the very conditions they now accept as fact. If one would change their life, they must first change the inner conversation. They must cease allowing the senses to dictate what is real and instead look within. The question is not whether imagination creates reality. The question is whether you will take control of it. For imagination is always at work, and it is shaping your world every moment of every day. The thoughts you repeat, the emotions you dwell upon, the scenes you replay in your mind, these are the seeds of your future experiences. Dare to assume that which you desire is already yours. Imagine it with such clarity and conviction that it feels real. Do not wish for it. Do not long for it. Claim it. Enter into the scene in your mind's eye and feel the reality of your wish fulfilled. See it, hear it, touch it as though it were happening now. When you do this with absolute faith, you have planted the seed, and it must bear fruit. The world will move, circumstances will shift. People will play their roles, all to bring forth what you have assumed as true. Do not be concerned with how it will happen. The path is not yours to determine. The mind that seeks to control the external details only interferes with the natural unfolding of events. Trust in the unseen. Assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled and allow the world to rearrange itself accordingly. Just as a tree grows from the invisible life within the seed, so too will your assumption grow into fact. Imagination knows no limits. It is not bound by time, by logic, or by circumstance. What is real is not what the senses confirm, but what the imagination claims. The senses show only the past, the outpicturing of old states of consciousness. If you wish to create something new, you must look beyond appearances and embrace what is yet unseen. Those who live by this law do not question whether their desires will manifest. They know it is already done. They walk in confidence, not because they see the physical evidence, but because they have already accepted the reality within. And just as night follows day, the outer world must conform to match the assumption held within. You may look around and say, "But my circumstances are too great, my past too heavy, my obstacles too strong." Yet none of these have any power except that which you give them. They exist only because you have assumed them to be true. The moment you cease to give life to these limiting beliefs, they will wither away. Imagine yourself already possessing that which you desire. Feel it deeply, knowing that this inner experience is far more real than anything your senses may tell you. The world will protest at first, for it is slow to change. But if you persist, if you refuse to be deceived by appearances, if you hold fast to the conviction that what you have assumed is already yours, then it will harden into fact. The greatest secret is this: you do not have to wait for life to change. You do not need permission from the world to become who you wish to be. The moment you claim it in imagination, the change has already occurred. The world may take time to reflect it, but it has no choice. It must obey the law. To those who dare to dream, to those who refuse to accept the limitations of the senses, to those who boldly assume the best of themselves in the world, life will reveal its greatest treasures. Everything is possible. There is nothing beyond reach. The only question is whether you will believe in the power you already possess. For imagination is the one and only reality, and the moment you accept this truth, the world will bow to your assumptions. There is a law that governs all creation, a law that works with absolute certainty, whether one is aware of it or not. It is the law by which all things come into being, the unseen force that shapes experience, the silent architect of reality. This law is simple. What you assume to be true will become true for you. Life does not give you what you want. It gives you what you assume. Every moment of your life is governed by assumption. The world you see, the experiences you encounter, the people you meet, each of these is drawn to you by the state of consciousness you occupy. You are always assuming something, whether consciously or unconsciously, and the outer world is nothing more than a reflection of these inner states. If you assume failure, failure follows. If you assume success, success must come. The law does not discriminate. It simply brings forth in the physical world that which is first accepted in imagination. To assume is not to wish, nor is it to hope. Assumption is a knowing so deep that it leaves no room for doubt. It is the firm acceptance that what is desired is already a fact, even when there is no visible evidence to support it. Those who understand this law do not seek confirmation from the world. They give confirmation to the world by first assuming the reality of their wish fulfilled. The world then moves, circumstances shift, and what was once unseen begins to take shape before their very eyes. Nothing is created from the outside in. The process is always internal first. Many spend their lives attempting to change conditions, struggling against circumstances, unaware that all they fight against is the shadow of an old assumption. But shadows cannot be altered. They can only be replaced by turning toward the light of a new assumption. If one wishes to experience health, they must assume themselves to be well. If one seeks wealth, they must assume themselves already in possession of abundance. If one desires love, they must assume themselves to be already loved. The assumption itself is the cause, and the outer world is merely the effect. The question is never whether the law is working. It is always working. The question is whether one is using it consciously or unconsciously. Most live in the unconscious assumption of limitation, scarcity, and struggle, and so their world reflects these beliefs back to them. But the moment one dares to assume something greater, the moment they claim a higher truth, the world must conform. There is no force in existence that can prevent an assumption from becoming reality, except the unwillingness to persist in it. To assume successfully, one must feel as though the desire is already fulfilled. It is not enough to repeat words or to visualize without belief. The key lies in the feeling, the deep inner conviction that what is imagined is not separate from self, but already a present reality. The body may still be weak, but one assumes strength. The bank account may be empty, but one assumes abundance. The relationship may not yet appear, but one assumes love. The senses may deny it, but assumption is greater than the senses. One must live from the state of the wish fulfilled, not towards it. To live from means to think, feel, and act as though it were already true. The one who assumes success does not wait for proof. They walk, speak, and move as one who is already successful. The one who assumes love does not seek validation. They embody the love they desire. The outer world, though it may not immediately reflect this new state, will inevitably bend to match it. Persistence is the key. Many assume a new reality, only to abandon it when the outer world does not instantly confirm it. They waver, they doubt, they return to the old state, unaware that every assumption takes time to mature. Just as a seed, once planted, requires time to grow, so too does an assumption require faith and patience before it is seen. The one who persists, who refuses to be deceived by appearances, will watch as the world reshapes itself according to their assumption. There is no condition too great, no obstacle too strong, no past too heavy, that it cannot be changed by the power of assumption. What has been does not matter, only what is assumed now. The past does not dictate the future, only the assumptions of the present do. If one assumes that the past must repeat, then it will. If one assumes that all things are possible, then all things must become possible. The law of assumption is the law of life. It is operating at every moment, in every person, in every experience. The question is not whether one is using it, but whether they are using it to create what they desire rather than what they fear. To assume with conviction is to command reality itself. It is to stand in the awareness that creation is finished, that all that is required is already within, waiting to be claimed. Nothing exists outside of consciousness, and the moment one assumes a thing to be true, the unseen forces begin to move, shaping reality to match the assumption held within. There is no need to force, no need to struggle, no need to beg life for change. The only requirement is to assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled and persist in that assumption until it becomes fact. This is the great secret. What you assume, you become. What you assume, you experience. What you assume, the world must reflect. The world you see is nothing more than a reflection of your internal state, a mirror that faithfully displays the assumptions you hold within. If you wish to change your experience, you must first change your assumption, for the world is powerless to bring you anything but that which you first accept as true. To live in the end is to assume with unwavering faith that what you desire is already yours. It is not hoping, it is not waiting, it is knowing. The moment you accept your desire as a present reality, the world begins to move in ways unseen to bring it forth. You do not need to know how it will come to pass, only that it must. Every bridge will be built, every path will be cleared, every obstacle will be removed to make way for that which you have already claimed in imagination. Most look at their present conditions and allow what they see to dictate what they believe is possible. They observe their limitations, their struggles, their unfulfilled desires, and they assume these conditions are permanent. They allow the senses to rule, believing that change must first be seen before it can be accepted. But the truth is that change begins not in the outer world, but in the unseen depths of consciousness. Reality is not set, it is fluid, ever shaped by the assumptions one holds. The great secret is that you are always living in the end of something. Right now, you are living in the end of an assumption you once accepted. Every experience you encounter is the result of a state you once occupied, whether deliberately or unconsciously. The key to transformation lies in choosing the end you wish to live in and assuming it with such conviction that the world has no choice but to conform. To live in the end is to walk in the certainty that your desire is already a fact, even if every sense denies it. It is to refuse to be moved by appearances, to remain steadfast in the knowledge that what you have claimed in imagination is just as real as anything you have ever experienced. The outer world is slow to catch up, but it must catch up. It has no power of its own, it only reflects. The mistake most make is to allow their senses to dictate their assumption. They see lack and assume lack. They see delay and assume delay. They see struggle and assume struggle. But the one who truly understands the law knows that the senses do not reveal truth. They reveal past assumptions. If one continues to react to what is seen, they only reinforce that which they seek to change. But if one dares to assume something new, if one persists in living from the end of their desire, the world must shift to accommodate that assumption. To assume a thing is to embody it. It is not enough to merely affirm it with words, nor is it enough to wish it were so. You must feel it to be true. You must occupy the state so completely that it becomes your natural dwelling place. The question is not whether you will live in the end. The question is which end you will choose. For every state exists now, waiting for you to step into it. Time does not matter. The mind that dwells in the senses asks, when will it come? But the one who understands the law knows that time is irrelevant, for all creation is finished. You are not creating your desire, it already exists. You are simply selecting it by assuming its truth. The moment you claim it is real, it is real, even if it remains unseen for a time. The world may not yet display it, but the seed has been planted, and its growth is inevitable. Doubt is the only enemy, for doubt is the rejection of the assumption. The one who wavers, who looks to the outer world for confirmation, who allows appearances to dictate belief, will only delay their manifestation. But the one who remains unwavering, who refuses to accept anything other than the fulfillment of their desire, will see the world reshape itself to match that inner certainty. To live in the end is to cease all effort, all striving, all questioning. It is to know that the work is already done, that the outcome is already determined. There is no need to fight, no need to struggle, no need to force. The assumption alone is enough. The world is nothing more than a servant to consciousness. It must obey the command you give it. The senses will tempt you to return to the old state, to react, to doubt, to fear. But persistence is the key. The moment you fall back into old patterns, you must remind yourself, the end is already yours. It is already finished. You need do nothing but remain faithful to your assumption. The only reality is the one you assume. The only truth is the one you accept. The only question is, will you dare to assume the best? Will you dare to claim what is already yours? For the moment you do, the unseen forces begin to move, and the world must bow to the power of your assumption. The unseen is the only reality. What is visible today is nothing more than the shadow cast by past states of consciousness, the echo of assumptions once held. To rely on the senses is to be deceived, for the senses show only what has already been brought into being. But the wise know that the real power lies not in what is seen, but in what is yet unseen, what is held firmly in imagination with the unwavering conviction that it must be so. Faith is not blind hope, nor is it passive wishing. Faith is the assurance of things not yet seen, the certainty that what is imagined is already a fact. It is not something one merely possesses. It is a force that shapes reality itself. When one has faith, they no longer ask if their desire will come. They know it already exists. The outer world may deny it. Circumstances may seem unchanged, but none of this matters to the one who has placed their faith in the unseen. For they do not wait for proof. They live as though their wish were already fulfilled. To walk by faith is to ignore appearances. It is to disregard the evidence of the senses and hold steadfastly to the truth that imagination creates reality. The man who wishes to be wealthy does not wait for riches to confirm his belief. He assumes wealth now. The woman who desires love does not seek validation from another. She assumes she is already cherished. The one who longs for success does not strive in desperation. They assume the feeling of already being the person they wish to be. There is no need to force, no need to struggle, no need to plead with life to change. All that is required is faith. Faith so strong that it overrides every doubt, every fear, every seeming obstacle. The world will test this faith, not to deny it, but to prove it. For every delay, every apparent setback is merely an opportunity to strengthen one's resolve. The one who wavers, who allows appearances to dictate their belief, will only perpetuate the state they wish to leave behind. But the one who remains unmoved, who holds firm in their assumption, will watch as the world bends to match their faith. Every great achievement, every work of genius, every act of transformation has been the result of faith in the unseen. The inventor who brings forth new technology does not rely on what is already known. They believe in what has yet to be discovered. The artist who creates beauty does not wait for approval. They trust in their vision before the world acknowledges it. The visionary who reshapes history does not ask if change is possible. They live from the certainty that it already is. Faith is not something reserved for a chosen few. It is the birthright of all, the power given to every man and woman to shape their own destiny. But it must be exercised. Just as a muscle grows stronger with youth, so too does faith expand when it is put to the test. The one who practices faith daily, who assumes the best regardless of appearances, who refuses to entertain thoughts of failure or limitation, will see their world transformed in ways beyond imagination. Doubt is the enemy of faith, for doubt is the denial of one's creative power. To doubt is to accept the evidence of the senses as final, to place trust in the external world rather than the internal. That the one who understands the law knows that the external is nothing more than the reflection of past beliefs. If one desires change, they must cease to give power to appearances and instead give power to their inner conviction. One cannot serve two masters. One cannot hold faith in the unseen while simultaneously giving attention to what the senses report. They must choose. They must decide whether they will believe in what has already been manifested or in what they wish to bring forth. The one who chooses faith, who dwells persistently in the feeling of their wish fulfilled, will find that the world reshapes itself to match their assumption. To have faith is to live in the end, to act, think, and feel as though the desired reality is already a fact. The senses may protest, the world may seem unchanged, but none of this matters. What is real is not what is seen, but what is imagined with conviction. The unseen is the seed, the visible is the fruit. And just as one does not doubt that a planted seed will grow, so too must one trust that what is assumed in imagination must be made manifest. Faith is not found in words, nor is it found in fleeting moments of belief. It is found in persistence, in the unwavering conviction that what is held in mind will become reality. The one who persists, who refuses to entertain thoughts of failure, who continually assumes the feeling of the wish fulfilled, will watch as the unseen becomes seen, as the invisible takes form, as the world reflects back the certainty that has been held within. The greatest secret is that life itself is responding to faith at every moment. Whether one has faith in success or failure, in abundance or lack, in love or loneliness, the law remains the same. What one believes to be true will be made true. The question is not whether faith works, it is whether one will use it consciously to assume the best rather than the worst. To place faith in the unseen is to step into one's true power. It is to recognize that the external world is not the master, but the servant of one's assumptions. The moment one dares to believe with absolute certainty that their desire is already fulfilled, the unseen forces begin to move, and what was once merely imagined must take shape in the world of form. There is no power outside of consciousness, and nothing exists independently of the mind that perceives it. The past is not fixed, nor is it beyond change. Just as the present is shaped by the assumptions one holds, so too is the past a fluid construct, subject to transformation through the creative power of imagination. The mistakes, the regrets, the painful experiences that seem to linger, they have no reality except that which one continues to give them. The moment one dares to revise, to see the past not as it was, but as it should have been, the very fabric of reality shifts, and life is reborn in harmony with this new vision. Most believe that the past is written in stone, that events once lived are beyond alteration. They carry with them memories of failure, rejection, suffering, and limitation, believing that these experiences define who they are. But the wise know that the past is no more real than a dream. It is simply a record of past assumptions, a shadow cast by previous states of mind. And just as a shadow changes when the light shifts, So too does the past change when one dares to revise it in imagination. The world does not hold you captive to your past, only your memory of it does. If you continue to relive old wounds, old disappointments, old fears, you will continue to recreate them in the present. But if you revise them, if you take the time to rewrite the script of yesterday, the world will align itself to this new version, erasing the old as though it never was. What was once a source of pain can be transformed into a foundation of strength. What was once a moment of defeat can become a moment of triumph. To revise is not to deny that an event occurred, but to alter its meaning and effect. The event itself has no power. Only your interpretation of it gives it life. A rejection, once revised, can become an opportunity. A loss, when seen through the lens of imagination, can turn into a blessing. The past bends to the state of consciousness you now occupy. If you see yourself as a victim of your past, you will continue to experience the echoes of that assumption. But if you see yourself as one who has always been fortunate, loved, successful, and guided, your world will rearrange itself to reflect that truth. The technique of revision is simple, yet its power is beyond measure. At the end of each day, one must take time to review the events that have unfolded. If anything did not unfold in harmony with the desired life, it must be changed in imagination. Close the eyes, return to the moment, and reimagine it as it should have been. If harsh words were spoken, imagine they were words of kindness. If a door was closed, imagine it was opened. If an opportunity was missed, imagine it was taken. Feel the reality of this new past so deeply that it becomes more real than what was. The mind does not distinguish between what is experienced in the physical world and what is experienced in imagination. It only knows what is vividly felt to be true. When one revises, they impress upon the subconscious a new version of events. And this new version, once accepted, replaces the old. The outer world then adjusts itself to match, erasing all evidence of the former state. People change, circumstances shift, memories realign, all to conform to the assumption that the revised past is the only past that ever existed. Doubt will whisper that the past cannot be changed, that what has been will always be. But doubt is the voice of limitation, and limitation exists only where belief allows it. The moment one claims authority over the past, the chains of old experiences are broken, and life moves in a new direction. There is no injustice that cannot be undone, no mistake that cannot be corrected, no history that cannot be rewritten. All things are possible to the one who dares to assume that they are. To revise is to take control of destiny, to refuse to be a prisoner of past assumptions. Every day offers a new opportunity to correct, to improve, to align with the highest vision of self. No longer must one carry the burdens of yesterday. The power to change lies within, waiting only to be claimed. The one who makes revision a daily practice will find that life, once rigid and unyielding, becomes fluid and responsive, molding itself to the perfect image held in imagination. Nothing exists independently of consciousness. No past event, no past pain, no past limitation has power of its own. All that remains of the past is the memory one chooses to hold. And if memory can be altered, then the past itself can be rewritten. To revise is to master time, to declare that nothing is beyond transformation. The one who understands this will no longer fear what has been, but will instead take what was and shape it into what should have been, knowing with absolute certainty that the world must conform to this new assumption. All that you seek already exists in the unseen. Every desire, every dream, every longing is not something to be chased. It is something to be claimed. The only separation between you and its fulfillment is the state of consciousness you now occupy. To attain anything, one must not seek it as though it is absent, but assume it as though it is already here. The secret is simple. You must feel as though your wish is already fulfilled. For feeling is the one and only medium through which creation takes form. It is not enough to wish for something. A wish implies distance, separation, lack. One who wishes is affirming that they do not yet have, and as long as they continue to dwell in that state, they will remain there, for life can only reflect what is assumed to be true. The great key to transformation is to shift from desiring a thing to possessing it in imagination, to enter so deeply into the state of fulfillment that the mind and body respond as though it were already fact. Every man lives in a world of his own making, a world shaped not by external forces but by his inner assumptions. An assumption is not mere thought, it is a feeling, a deep, abiding sense of being. If one assumes lack, they will live in lack. If one assumes success, success must follow. But assumption cannot be shallow or mechanical. It must be felt in the depths of being, for it is feeling that impresses the subconscious and summons reality into form. The question is not whether you believe your desire is possible. It is not even whether you think it will happen. The only question is, can you feel it as though it were already real? Can you drop every doubt, every fear, every question, and step fully into the experience of your fulfilled desire? Can you close your eyes, breathe deeply, and feel in your very soul what it would be like if your wish were already accomplished? If you can, you have set creation in motion, and nothing can prevent its manifestation. The world of senses will tell you otherwise. It will tempt you to look at present conditions, to measure progress with your eyes, to seek proof before you believe. But the law is clear. What is seen is only the shadow of what has already been assumed. If you wait for outer confirmation before feeling fulfilled, you will wait indefinitely. But if you dare to feel first, before there is any physical evidence, then the unseen must become seen. This is the great paradox. What appears to be cause and effect is actually reversed. Feeling is the cause, and the world merely follows. To feel the wish fulfilled, one must learn the art of dwelling. This is not a momentary imagining, not a fleeting daydream, but a sustained dwelling in the state of already having. It is to assume the role of the person who already possesses what they seek. It is to carry oneself as one who is already successful, already loved, already abundant. The inner conversations change, the posture changes, the tone of voice, the thoughts, the reactions, all shift to align with this new state of being. Doubt cannot exist in the presence of true feeling. The moment you feel the reality of your wish, all questions cease. You no longer ask when or how, for those questions belong only to the one who does not yet have. The one who knows they already possess their desire does not concern themselves with time or process. They live from the end with a quiet certainty that what is unseen is already moving into form. The world will move to reflect this new state. Circumstances, people, events, all will shift to accommodate the assumption you hold. The mind may not understand how, but the law does not require understanding, only faith. Just as the seed does not need to know how it will grow into a tree, but only that it must, so too does every assumption contain within it the means of its fulfillment. Once planted in the soil of feeling, it must bear fruit. This is why the work is not in forcing the world to change, but in changing one's own feeling. There is no need to struggle, to push, to strive. The effort is only in maintaining the state of fulfillment, in resisting the temptation to return to old patterns of doubt and disbelief. The outer world is not to be battled. It is only to be mastered from within. The one who truly understands this will never again feel powerless. They will know that they hold within themselves the key to every desire, the secret to every fulfillment. They will cease to chase, to long, to wish, and instead step fully into the experience of already having. They will walk with quiet confidence, speak with assurance, think with certainty. And as they do, the world must bow to their assumption, for reality is but the mirror of the feeling they have chosen to dwell in. Everything you seek is already yours. The only question is, will you dare to feel it now? Will you embrace the truth that imagination is the only reality? Will you cease to live by the dictates of the senses and instead claim the world you wish to see? The choice is always yours, for in every moment you are shaping your future, not through effort, not through struggle, but through the simple, undeniable power of feeling. The only moment that exists is now. The past is but a memory, shaped by present awareness, and the future is nothing more than the projection of today's assumptions. To live in the past is to imprison oneself in what has been, and to dwell too much on the future is to deny oneself the power that is available in this very moment. The key to transformation, the secret to every fulfilled desire, lies in understanding that the present moment is the only reality, the only point from which all things spring forth. There is no other time to claim the life you wish to live but now. If one waits for circumstances to change before they feel happiness, they will wait forever. If one believes that success, love, or fulfillment will come at some later date, they have already sentenced themselves to delay. For life only responds to what is claimed in the now. Every assumption held in this moment sets the stage for what must unfold. If one assumes lack, the future will reflect lack. If one assumes wealth, love, or joy, then the world will reorganize itself to make it so. Time itself is an illusion of the senses. The mind, believing in linear progression, assumes that change must take time. But all change happens now. The moment one truly shifts their inner state, reality begins to bend. There is no waiting period, no process of delay. There is only the immediacy of consciousness adjusting to match the assumption held. It is not the future that one must concern themselves with, but the inner state they occupy in this very moment. To live in the now is to claim power. It is to take full responsibility for what is being assumed at this instant. If one allows their mind to drift into fear, doubt, or hesitation, they are giving life to those states. But if one stands firm in the certainty that all they desire is already theirs, then the world must conform. The challenge is not in acquiring what is sought, but in maintaining the state of already having. This is the discipline, the mastery, remaining steadfast in the assumption that all is well, regardless of appearances. Many believe that change happens gradually, that transformation requires effort, time, and struggle. But this is not so. Change happens the instant one fully assumes the new state. The only reason it appears to take time is because the mind, still conditioned by the past, resists the new reality. The moment one releases all attachment to former beliefs, the moment they surrender completely to the feeling of already being what they wish to be, the shift occurs. And once the shift occurs inwardly, the outer world has no choice but to reflect it. The senses will attempt to deceive. They will whisper that things remain the same, that nothing is changing. But the senses are only an echo of the past. They do not reveal the truth. They only reveal what has already been assumed long ago. If one allows themselves to be ruled by what is seen, they will forever be trapped in the cycle of recreating yesterday's reality. But the one who understands that the present moment is the point of power will not be swayed by appearances. They will look within, claim their desire as already fulfilled, and persist in that knowing until the world must yield. To claim the present moment is to detach from all former states. It is to cease defining oneself by old failures, past struggles, or previous disappointments. It is to refuse to entertain thoughts of regret or worry, for these only serve to project more of the same into the future. The past is dead unless it is revived by attention. The future is uncertain unless it is deliberately shaped by assumption. Only the now is real, and in the now all things are possible. One cannot serve two masters. One cannot hold faith in the unseen while simultaneously dwelling in fear of what is seen. A decision must be made. Will one believe in what has already manifested, or will they trust in the unseen reality that is waiting to be claimed? To hesitate, to waver, is to delay. But to boldly assume that the desire is already realized, to live from that state with absolute conviction, is to command the forces of life itself. It is in the stillness of now that all power resides, not in anxious striving, not in hoping for a better tomorrow, but in the quiet, unwavering knowing that all is already accomplished. The moment one drops the illusion of time, the moment they stop looking forward or backward and simply claim their good in the present, the world responds with unimaginable speed. This is the greatest secret, that nothing needs to be waited for. Nothing needs to be earned or proven. The only requirement is to assume the state of the wish fulfilled now, not later, not when the circumstances permit, but now. For the now is the seed of all creation, and whatever is planted in this moment must inevitably bear fruit. The truth has always been simple. Life is but a reflection of consciousness, and reality is shaped by assumption. There is no power outside of the self, no force governing fate apart from the beliefs held within. To change one's life, one must change their inner world. There is no other way. Whether it is revising the past, assuming the feeling of the wish fulfilled, or claiming dominion over the present moment, all transformation begins and ends in the imagination. The senses will argue for limitation. The mind, conditioned by the past, will resist change. But those who persist, who refuse to accept appearances as final, who dare to assume a new reality despite all evidence to the contrary, will find that life bends to their will. The outer world is not fixed. It is fluid, ever shifting to mirror the state of consciousness that is most dominantly held. There is no waiting, no striving, no external battle to be fought. The only work is within, to remain unwavering in the assumption of the fulfilled desire, to dwell persistently in the feeling of already having, and to trust that the unseen is more real than the seen. Those who understand this truth will no longer be victims of circumstance, but masters of creation, shaping their world with the effortless ease of one who knows that all things are possible. The question is not whether life will change. It is whether one will dare to claim that change now. For reality is only the shadow of belief, and the one who assumes boldly, without doubt or hesitation, will find that the world must conform to their highest vision. There is no other law, no other power, only the undeniable truth that whatever is believed with feeling and persistence must become fact. And in this realization, one discovers the ultimate freedom, that they were never bound, never powerless, but always the creator of their own destiny.